do now is we'll move to our one final concept, that is files in Python. Very interesting concept, files. So let me delete all the file contents I have here. So files will be for your cat 1 on Monday. So please don't skip files. That's fine. So we'll see an example for files and then we'll start. Say I want to store the data for students. So like I want to get their name, registration number, subject name, marks, and store it somewhere. So now normally what we have learned now, how will you do that in Python? So you get the name of the student, we'll say input, enter name. So this is what we have learned, right? And then we'll get the registration number. It's also a string, so we'll get the registration number. And then what else we can get? We can get his location, from which place he is from. So we'll get the location, which is also a string. Enter location. Maybe we can get the subject and mark for one subject. Subject name. So we'll have that subject name to be a string too. And then mark will be an integer value. So we'll have int input and then enter mark. So we'll have only one subject's mark here. Okay. So we are just getting some data. This we have already learned how to do that in Python. And now I can print all this data to the user back. How can I print all this data? I can say name, registration number, subject name, and then mark. That's it. So let me run this one. So enter name, enter Satish, registration number some 12BC 0001, location Vellore, and then subject name Max, and then mark is 20. So we are displaying the data to the user. Now the question is, you close your system, again you come back, you want to view who is that user. The data, will it be available to you? So if I close my PyCharm and then I again open it, will this data be there? Satish 12BC 1 Max 20. So it's not going to be there because we're using the random access memory to temporarily store our data for our program. So once when you close up programs, your memory gets released and then you're not going to have access to the data again. So data storage is not permanent when you're using the RAM. But then we need some kind of permanent data storage. So files, you take a Word file, an Excel file, your video file, your text file, anything you store on the hard disk is permanent, right? You close your system, you again reboot your system, you're able to see that that data is there forever. So here what we're going to do is we're going to see the concept of storing data on files. We're going to use a text file, and on a simple text file that you create using a notepad. How can you put this data that we are seeing here, Satish 12BC 1 Max 20, how can you write this data from that we receive from the user to a file, so that a file gets created, data is getting stored there, and then later on when we want to retrieve it, we can retrieve it. So data storage becomes permanent. So where files will be used in the industry, it's normally used for communication between systems running on different domains. Say one system is running on the mainframe, another system running on Java or Linux. So you want to exchange information. Normally there will be a text file transferred from one system to another system to a folder, and then that system will process that, because we can't directly establish communication between these two systems running on different domains. And files also will be used wherever you want data to be permanent at a very small scale. Say I want some 10 records and that will be permanent. I'm not going to change it. I'll be often using it. So then I'll be using files. But when you want to store data like our university's data, 30,000 students, 1,000 faculty, alumni, parents, Then you go for a database management system like Oracle SQL, Oracle or MySQL or any NoSQL databases. But files, normally it's on the smaller scale for a permanent storage. So how to write to a file? We have to write, our objective is to write this data to a file and store it. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to open a file. Our first command is open a file. So the open is a keyword, and then we are going to create a file object. So we can give some variable name, file is equal to open, and then we'll give a file name. I want to write to some text file. Say I'll write to test.txt. Since I'm writing data, I should also give this mode, that is file mode. You give W. W means, okay, you're just going to write data to the file. You're not going to read data from the file. It's only for writing, right? So you're going to open a file object. Open is the keyword. It will open a file. So test.txt. This file, if it is not existing, it will be creating that file. This program will create that file. If the file by name test.txt already exists in the same location where your program is, so where this file will be created, it is stored in the same place where you have stored your program, the same directory. If you want to create it in some other directory, you have to mention the path so that it creates the file in some other directory for you. That's it. And now, how to write all the contents I have received from the user to this file. So for that, what I can do is I can use some file methods, that is file.write. This file.write will write only one string, one big string to that file. But I have so much of data here, so I'll just show you. Say if I want to write Satish, that is one string, right? So file.write, .write is nothing but a method of the object file, and it will write Satish to this text file, and we have to open that file in the write mode. So you're opening a file. Once when you have finished writing, what next you have to do is you have to close the file, file.close. It's very important. So you can think of taking a book, opening it, writing contents to the book using the write mode, closing that book. Why we have to close that book is only when you close that book, some other person can use that book. Same way, only when you close a file, some other program accessing the same file can use it, can access it. So you have to release the file. The problem with files is at any point in time, only one program can access a file. You can't have multiple programs accessing the same file. Got it? So you have to close this and let us run this one. Say I don't have this file test.txt already in my folder, so I see my folder contents here. So let me try and run this one and check whether all my data, that is what I'm writing to my file, only Satish I'm writing, one string. Is Satish getting written to my file? Let me stop this one. Okay, I have to enter all this data, right? Let me enter Satish. So I'm getting all the data from the user, 12BC0001, and then location Vellore, and then subject name Max, and then 10. But what I'm writing is only Satish, plain Satish I'm writing. So let's check whether that one is done. So you see here test.text gets created immediately, and then when I look into my text file, the data gets written. So it's a text file. So show in Explorer. Let me go to the location where my file is right now. So this is the location where that file is. This is text file. So when I open that file, it's a text file. I have my data written here. So file.write will write one big string to my file. So I don't want one big string. I want the data entered by the user here. So how can I do that is I can just like that go and change my program so that I can write all this. So let me go and change my program here. Oh God, did I write it somewhere else? I think I have closed my program. Okay, here it is. So what I'm doing here is instead of writing Satish, what I will do is I'll concatenate all the data that's coming in. So I will say contents is equal to name plus regnum. I'll concatenate everything, all the data given by the user, location plus subject name plus marks. Marks alone is an integer value. Whatever you're writing to a file should be a string. So you convert that to a string and then say marks. So please do this, because whatever you're reading from a file will be a string, writing to a file will be a string. So string mark. So all these contents is one big string here. I'll just put file.write contents. So one record for one student. I'll write it to my file now. Let me execute this code again. So I'll put all the data here. Satish and 12BC0001, and then location is Vellore, and subject name Srila Max and 10. So it will not throw you any output here. We can have some message that file write is done, but we have to check the file for the actual output. So let's go and check the file. So when you go and check the file, you have this entire contents written to my text file. So now data is permanent. It's on a notepad file, on my hard disk. I can close my system, come back again. So data gets permanent here. So no need to again and again get the user's data, ask him to enter the data. So data is here for that user. So like that, I want to store the data for all the 60 students in this class. So each student becomes a record. So I can do that. Say I want for next student to come in and write the contents. Now I'll run this program for the next student. So I already have one more student, but then I want to add the contents for the next student. So what should I do? Again, I should run this program so that I can add, but I want the contents to be in a new line. Even before that, let me write again the contents. Let me write another record. So for that, again, let me run the program. Let me write, say, Ramesh now. Satish is done. And registration number is 12BCE10, something like that. And location is Chennai. He is a different person. Subject name is Max, and ES code some 99 marks. So we have written this to the file again. First I have written Satish record, next is Ramesh record. So now let us go and check the file whether we have the records of both these guys there. Are you having the records of both these guys? No. So whenever we use this mode, write mode, what it does is it truncates all the information in your current file. And then it writes that record as a new record to the file. So that is the use of write mode. But then I don't want a new record. I want to add records at the end of the file. So here it's overwriting, right? Deleted Satish, it wrote Ramesh. But then I want Satish to be added to this file at the end. So then what I should do is I should not open the file in write mode. I should open the file in a different mode, that is append mode. So it's A. What append mode does is it will take that file, it will not overwrite, truncate the contents, it will add the contents at the end of the file. So now when I have A, well, what is there in my file already? I have the contents of Ramesh written. Now I have changed the file mode to append, and now I'm going to write contents. Let me execute this. The only change is instead of W and A. So what happens when I use A? Let us go and run this one and check. So let me write now Satish and 12BC1. Earlier we have missed this record, right? So 12BC1 and location, Vellore and Max and 10. So now the record gets written. Let's check our file. What is there in the file? You see this value record for Satish gets appended. A is always appending. List.append we have already seen, right? Appending is adding contents at the end of the file. But it's not in a new line, it's in the same line, it's one big string. So what happens, you want to push this Satish to the next line. So how can you do that? That is the question. So let me delete the record for Satish. How can I put Satish in the next line? After writing the contents, I can enforce a new line character here. So one line you write, and then you have this new line character at the end. Now you go and run this one again. Let's check whether Satish gets into this and then location is Vellore, subject name is Max and 10. So we have written that record. Let's check whether Satish is a new record in our file. Oh, why this one is not coming as a new record? Did I save this one? It should be fine. We should do the new file test. Yeah. earlier maybe I didn't refresh or save my thing. See, now you are seeing the test record in a new line. So how did I move it to a new line? Just add that concatenate your string with a new line character at the end. Where is that my thing? Okay, so here it is. So like that I can read, I can put this in a loop, right? Reading data and writing data in a loop. For 60 students, I can write that to a file. So you have learned two modes of files. That is write mode. Write mode will create the file if the file is not there. It will remove all the contents from the file if the file exists and then overwrite your contents. Whereas append mode will open the file and then will tag the contents at the end of the file. Append will also create a new file. So if I have test1.txt, this file is not there. I want to append contents to this file. Is it creating a new file? Let us check that. So let me run this one. Test1.txt is a new file totally. So let me put enter everything to be new like that. So registration number is new, location is new, and subject name is new. Mark is say 12. So it finishes that, and test1 was not earlier there in my directory, but now you see text1 gets created. So when you use the append mode, again when the file is not there, it created, whereas from the next record it will start adding that record to the end of the file. Okay, we have written data. How can we read data from a file? So there should be something, right? We have created a file like test.txt. We have to read this data, or else test1.txt we have some data in the file. So we can also read data from a file. How to read data from a file? Let us remove everything. It's only for reading data, not for writing. So what we are going to do here is the mode will be R. R denotes read. And then we are going to use a different method here. We are going to say file dot read. So this method will return the entire contents of that file as a big string. One big string. So let's try and put k. K is equal to file dot read. We'll just print k, whatever that is returned by that read function. And from where I'm going to read test1.txt. So once when I'm done with my file operation, immediately I'll close my file. Please don't forget this. I'll have to close my file. I've read the contents, moved it to a variable k on the RAM, so I'm going to close my file immediately and then print k. So let us now go and check whether we are getting the output here. So what is that you're seeing here is whatever that was there in this file, test1.txt. So what is there in test1.txt? Let's go and check that one. So this is my file. So that's what is getting printed here. So everything, all the contents as one big string will be read and put to your k. So here we'll see something, which will be useful for us. For instance, I have this file test.txt. Let me take one record alone. For instance, I'll take the record for Ramesh. So when you look at the record for Ramesh, we know the first string is name, second string is registration number, followed by location, subject name, and then marks. So you want to store data like this. One advice will be like you store it as comma separated data. For instance, Ramesh comma. While I'm writing, I'll write it with a comma separated version of that, so that I know each string, what each string is. So I'll write data like this. Max 99. Okay, this one is something like this. So we'll check one record. We'll have this record. Say while I'm writing itself, I'll write it as a comma separated version. Now I want to read every independent item here and print that to the user. How can I read that? So can I go and read data from test.txt now? When I do test.txt, when I run this one out, I read it like this. But then how to read every independent item from this string? See how everything comes in handy when we are working with things. So we'll close the file, we'll read that string, we'll split everything that is separated by a comma. For I in L, we'll go to the list, we'll print I. Got it? So now what will happen? Let's go and run this program again. So I read the name, registration number, everything from the file as independent items. So you see here, what I have done, I have used the string method dot split. See how effective it is now. Split everything separated by a comma. So it gives me a list, traverse the list, print it. Now I can get a file from other systems. Say a mainframe system is transmitting me a file. I know what all those things that occur in each section of that file. I split it using a comma separator. I'll update all those contents in my database now. I know what I'm going to update. So in the name field, I can say, I know the very first thing is a name, right? So I'll go and update that to my name field in the database. The second thing that I'm going to get is the registration number. So next time when I come in, I'm going to put that as the, so I can do a lot of things when I split it out. This is clear? So dot read, what it does, if I have 2 lines or 3 lines, it's going to put me everything as a big string. So let me go and again show you what is there in test1.text. So if I'm going to have another line, something like this in this file, test like that, and then we'll have some test and then 13, something like this. So I have 2 lines here. I'm going to save this one, use file.read, and then I'm going to print that k. So what's going to happen now? It's going to read that as an entire big string and print it out for you. So it's test1.text, right? So I run this one. See, read the entire contents and print it. If I want to read only one line from that file, I'll use dot readline. Dot readline. That is, it'll read only one line from that file. So let me now run this one. So you see, I'm reading it line by line now. Say I have 60 students records, 60 different lines. I'll read one line, split it, process it, update my database. Read next line, split it, process it. So I can read line by line. So what read line does, it takes me the first line. That is the student's record number 1, and then it processes it. So if I ask you a question wherein you have to read some data for 10 students, find the average mark of all these 10 students from the file. So such kind of questions can be asked, right? Anyway, read line we have seen, write we have seen, and read mode. So what are the modes we have seen? Read, write, append. 3 important modes. We have other file modes too. I'll just share with you those file modes. So we look at the modes here. Read mode is only for reading. So once when you open a file in the mode R, you cannot write contents to the file. It will not allow you to write. So please be cautious with these modes. Read plus, R plus will both read and write to a file, but then it will not create a file if the file is not there. So when you open a file in read plus mode, that is R plus, you can read and also write to the file, but under one condition, file should already be created. W is only for writing. You cannot read data from a file while you are writing. W plus is again for reading and writing to a file, but here if the file is not existing, it will create the file for you. That's the difference between R plus and W plus. For R plus, the existence of a file is mandatory, whereas for W plus, it will create the file if it is not existing. Append we have already seen is appending data, writing data to the file. Again, while you're opening a file in the append mode, you cannot use file.read. Read cannot be done. Append plus will be used for appending and reading data. Will create the file if the file is not present. So these are the modes. Normally we'll use read, write, and then append modes. Append modes will also be effectively used. So did you go through? Did you write some programs here on files? Was it working for you? Any issues here? Please, can you try some programs here? Whatever program I have given you, reading name, registration number, marks, subject, writing it to a file, reading contents from a file, splitting it. Please work it out now. Work it out now for some time. Write that piece of code. Next, we will see how to write all the contents from a list to a file. Let's see writing one big string to a file. How to write many strings in a list to a file. We'll see that. That's our next objective. So on Saturday's class, we take up exercises, more other exercises on files. Carry out some simple read and write operations. You write one string like whatever I have shown you. Write a content to the file and one big string. Read the contents from the file. This is the syntax, right? For creating a file, you should use the file. You create some variable. You use open file name, comma, the mode. Can be R, W, A plus A, or W plus, whatever it is. And then how will you access the file? Say is fh dot write, fh dot read, fh dot readline. There's one more thing called fh dot readlines. Read all the lines at once and return it back as a list. Try those things now. So we'll try read lines. So let me take one file, test1.txt. I have multiple lines here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do read lines. Let me check read lines. Let me check what happens now. I told you, right? It reads multiple lines, return that as a list. All the lines move to a list here. Likewise, you can have a list of elements. You can write all these elements to that file. For that, you have to use write lines. So this is read lines. If I want to write lines, there's one more option. If I have a list of elements, say names, I have different strings here, not one big string. We'll have some names here. And then I want to write all these strings, different strings to my file. What can I do is file dot write lines. And then I pass L, that's it. File dot close. I'll write all these contents to another file, test2.txt, and the mode I'm going to use is write mode, W mode. So writing multiple strings to a file. Earlier we used dot write to write only one particular big string. Here we are writing multiple strings from a list. So let us go and try and check this one out, whether this one works. Test2.txt is created, and you see multiple strings in that list got added to a file by using this particular function dot write lines. Write lines reads all the contents of the list and writes it to a file. Each content is a string. It is mandatory that it should be a string. If it is an integer, convert that to a string and write it to the file. While you're reading back contents from a file, it will come back as a string. You have to convert that as an integer and use it for your operations. For instance, marks of the student, you have to read it back as a string, convert it as an integer and use it for finding average. So read lines, write lines. Read lines reads all the lines, converts that to a list and gives it back to you. Write lines writes all the contents in a list to a file as shown just now.